Festerson.
Here.
Gurnett is absent. Gray is absent. Mr. President.
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for the invocation by Councilmember Thompson.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, today we pray for relief. There are many things, Lord, that are going on nationally and locally. Nationally, hurricanes, earthquakes, locally, quite a bit of violence and shooting. Sometimes, Lord, we have to look outside of ourselves for divine help. We're asking you to intervene on our behalf to give us relief. Give us a sign as to what it is we're supposed to do. Give us the wisdom to carry out a plan of intervention, especially when it comes to the violence. Lord, help those families who are grieving right now, and those who have loved ones that they have to bury. Please be with them. In peace we pray.
City Clerk certifies publication of Daily Record on August 26th. Notice for Clear Council and regular City Council meeting August 30th, 2011. Current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in white binder on the east wall of the legislative chambers.
Good afternoon and welcome. This Omaha City Council meeting is conducted in public and by law may only address the topics listed on the published agenda. The Council will hear testimony but will not engage in debate of issues with the public at this meeting. During testimony, it is not appropriate to applaud or convey disapproval. These actions only detract from the formal decorum of the meeting. At this time, please turn off or mute any electronic devices. Thank you.
Pursuant to City Council Rule 7E, agenda item number 5 shall wait over 2 weeks for publication and public hearing. Liquor, item number 6, Doohickey Bar and Grill, 4936 South 135th Street, a Class C liquor license, new application, old location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 6 begins now. Are there any proponents? Would you please state your name and address?
William M. Griffin. I live at 7628 Leewood Street in Papillion, Nebraska, 68046.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Thank you.
No lights, roll call.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Approved 5-0. Item number 7, Grover Inn, 3505 South 42nd Street, Class C liquor license, no application, no location. You have an amendment.
Public hearing on agenda item number 7 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Mike Kelly, 7134 Pacific. Mr. President, members of council, I just recently got retained in this case, and I think one of the first things that we needed to do was talk to Councilman Gannett. He, of course, has some health issues, so we couldn't line that up, and I just got involved. So because of that, I'm going to ask for a 2-week layover, if that would be possible.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion to wait over 2 weeks. Public hearing.
No lights, roll call.
Jerem is out of the chambers. Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Slate over 4-0. Item number 8 is Gino's Bar and Grill, 3821 North 167th Court, Class I liquor license, new application, new location. If you wish to grant, you would need to grant contingent on their getting their proper permits.
Public hearing on agenda item number 8 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yes, Sean Kelly, 7134 Pacific, here today on behalf of GBNS Inc. As the city clerk did mention, we would just ask that your recommendation would be contingent upon getting all the permits, which we have pulled, but the remodel isn't completed yet. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion to approve contingent upon proper permits.
Second.
No lights, roll call.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's approved 4-0. Item number 9 is the International Buffet, 4827 L Street, Class I liquor license, new application, new location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 9 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yes, Sean Kelly, 7134 Pacific Street. Here today on behalf of International Buffet LLC. Be happy to answer any questions you may have. The applicant is present as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Are there any other proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed. No lights, roll call.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Approved 4-0. Item number 10 is Latino Restaurant, 10841 Q Street, Class I liquor license, new application, new location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 10 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yeah, my name is Victor Alfaro, representative of Otoniel Ojeda, which is the co-owner and manager of the Latino restaurant, which is applying for the liquor license for the second time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other proponents?
Dennis Dewar, 1605 North 75th Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68114.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents?
Yes, Tom Orton, 821 South 173rd Plaza, Omaha.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents?
Sherry Frederickson, 2847 South 163rd Plaza, Omaha, Nebraska, 68130.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Or are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
No lights, roll call.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Adopted 4-0. Item number 11, Halos Ultra Lounge, 17525 Gold Plaza, Class I liquor license, new application, O location. We have communications opposing.
Public hearing on agenda item number 11 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Andrew Collins, 10330 Regency Parkway Drive. I'm here on behalf of 17525 Gold Plaza, Inc., doing business as Halo Ultra Lounge. Just brief background. Current applicants bought the bar from the former owner. Former owner no longer has any involvement in the bar whatsoever. My clients have a lot of experience in the entertainment industry. All have worked in the industry. All have demonstrated full compliance with all the rules and all laws. I won't take any more of the council's time. I'm open to answer any questions. The applicants are also here, and I would ask for a few minutes to make a brief rebuttal if necessary.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Stothard.
I'm going to let Councilman
Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. Is this Diane Reeby here? Diane, could you come up?
Diane Reeby, Project Extra Mile, 11606 Nicholas Street.
Diane, you sent the council a summary of the feelings from Project Extra Mile. Would you put those on record?
Thank you. We weren't here to oppose and we weren't here to support, obviously, and so we just wanted to make sure the council was aware that this is the same location that the Coliseum Lounge was located at, with the owner still being the previous applicant being the owner of the location still. Have concerns and want to make sure the council pursues that there would be no connection. This was a license, the Coliseum, that was revoked by the Liquor Control Commission on a 3-0 vote. with a request for reconsideration of that revocation just occurring at the recent commission hearings. That was also denied on a 3-0 vote by the commission. That's a pretty unusual step for the commission to take. So thought it was relevant enough to make certain that the council was aware of it.
What were some of the violations?
I was not present, but I can tell you what we know from the record. A staff member of mine was allowing open containers to leave the premise, multiple drinks, pouring alcohol into patrons' mouths, and that was a Nebraska State Patrol investigator who was part of that investigation and part of that event. Refilling, which means from another bottle, using cheap liquor to put into what would look like a more expensive container or bottle container. So those were the violations of the previous owner for the Coliseum.
And the previous owner is still the current owner?
Is the current owner of the property.
Okay.
And so that would be part of that consideration, and again, question from your end as to make certain that there was no connection. It's a little unusual to have a kind of a quick turnaround of a new owner or a new potential sale owner of a business at that location or any location. This just occurred within the last maybe 10 days at the commission, so it was pretty recent.
Okay, thank you. I'll yield the floor and then come back.
Ms. Stothard.
Yeah, thank you. Diane, I don't think I have a question for you right now, but who the manager is going to be who? Is it Christopher Jones?
The manager will be Andrew Ram.
Please state your name again.
Andrew Collins.
Okay, and who is Christopher Jones?
Christopher Jones is a co-owner.
Oh, a co-owner. And who was the original owner again that owned the Coliseum?
That man's name is Mike Boyd. And if I could take a minute and just address the concerns raised by Ms. Ribe, the notion that Mr. Boyd is somehow still involved, either in the bar itself or as a landlord, is simply mistaken. It's incorrect. I don't know the genesis of that misconception. In fairness to Ms. Ribe, it was not made by her initially. I assume that she heard that someplace. It simply isn't the case. I have documentation, including the lease that was signed by the current applicants with the landlord. That is not the former owner of the bar. Mike Boyd is not a participant in the landlord company. There's simply no connection there. The landlord is Tivoli 5. The lease was signed for Tivoli on Tivoli's behalf by a John Hoych. And the former owner of the Coliseum, Mr. Boyd, is simply uninvolved in either the current bar or the land. He's not the landlord. He has no role in the applicant's business whatsoever.
Well, Ms. Reeby said that they had asked just in August of 11, just this month, for reconsideration of the Coliseum for their liquor license.
I agree.
Are you saying that's not true?
I'm not saying that that's not true. The reason for his request to reconsider the liquor license was so that the transition could happen while his liquor license was still alive. That is to say, my client, the current owners of Halo Ultra Lounge, took over the bar and opened it in August under a temporary operating permit from Mr. Boyd. Mr. Boyd's involvement with the bar ceased on May 31st when the asset purchase agreement closed. Now, incidentally, that was negotiated for a period of time before that, so it's not as if May 31st came around and this sale was negotiated overnight. It was a sale that was negotiated over a period of time. Upon closing, Mr. Boyd's involvement in the bar ceased. Assets were transferred to my clients, who now currently run the bar without any influence, without any direction, without any involvement whatsoever from Mr. Boyd. The request to reconsider was made by Mr. Boyd simply so that there was enough time for the temporary operating permit to be granted by the Liquor Control Commission should there be any timing issues.
Okay. And so Andrew Ram is going to be the manager?
He is.
The liquor manager?
That's correct.
Is he here?
He is.
Can I speak with him, please?
Andrew Ram, 17033 Sailor Street, Omaha, Nebraska.
Thank you. As far as who is going to be doing the hiring?
Me and one of my other partners.
And who's going to be signing the checks?
Me and one of my other partners.
Okay. And what experience do you have as a liquor manager?
I helped run Parliament Pub down on 31st and Dodge. I also did liquor order and wrote checks for Fedora Lounge on 114th and Dodge.
Have you ever had any sell to minors?
Nope.
Have you ever had any violations yourself personally?
Nope.
In 2004, did you have any violations?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think we have down for an MIP, but,
Oh, when I was in high school? Yes.
well, that would be 2004.
Okay, yeah, I didn't,
Have you ever had a certified liquor manager class?
no.
You have not done that?
No, we're willing to do that, though.
Okay. Hold on a minute.
Okay.
Do you want to take the floor again? Yeah, who is Christopher Jones again?
He's my business partner.
He's your partner?
Yes.
So he's part owner?
Yes.
He's not going to be managing?
No.
Okay, because he has also some citations of a criminal history.
Yes.
Okay, he's not going to have anything to do with the day-to-day operations?
He'll be on the day-to-day operations. I'll be taking care of the management side for the staff.
Okay. Are you okay with this? I'll move for approval contingent upon you and your staff taking a certified liquor manager class.
Okay.
Do you agree to that?
Absolutely.
Dr. Thompson.
I'd like to put one more stipulation on that. I'd like to have a review in 6 months, see how you're doing.
Okay.
And if you do not pass that review, then we'll bring you back and talk about some penalties.
Okay.
You agree to that?
Yes.
All right, I'll second the motion.
Councilman, you're contingent on the classes and review by the liquor committee?
In 6 months.
Okay. Is that agreeable to?
Did I make that as a motion?
You made a motion contingent on the classes.
Okay.
He wants to add that. Is that okay?
All right, good.
Okay.
Can't remember what I did.
And I second.
Right.
No further lights. Roll call.
Jerem's back in the chambers. Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's adopted 5-0. Item number 12 is Genji's Japanese Steakhouse, 14505 West Center Road. Class I liquor license, new application, new location, old location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 12 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Jamin Kim, 14506 Westchester Circle, 68154.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Thank you.
Second.
No lights. Roll call.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett? Or Gurnett's not here. Mr. President?
Yes.
It's adopted 5-0. Item number 13, Doc's Legacy Lounge, 3922 Ames Avenue. Request permission for an addition to the present Class I liquor license of a beer garden, 14 by 33 to the north. We have communications supporting and opposing.
Public hearing on agenda item number 13 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yes, Cynthia Jenkins, 2811 Hamilton Street.
Yes, ma'am.
Lindsay DeBerry, 5505 North 82nd Street.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents?
Yes, there's one.
You want to come right ahead?
Good afternoon. My name is Helen Fisher. I am the owner of the building directly across the street from the bar at 3921, 23, and 25 Ames Avenue, in addition to the adjacent parking lot at 3915 Ames Avenue. The problem is the parking. When the bar, the former owner of the bar was Hank's Place, and Hank and my ex-husband had a gentleman's agreement that they could use the overflow on our parking lot provided that they kept the lot clean. Well, the problem is Hank is gone, my ex-husband is gone, and a couple of years ago when I had the building renovated, I don't believe these people were the owners, but I was up there with my handyman and walked out the back door and someone's urinating against the back of the building. I was up there last week. There was a broken beer bottle in the downspout from the gutter. The parking lot is strewn. My roof, my gutters, have empty bottles. I realize it's on sale, but there's off sale somewhere around there because I'm getting all these bottles. There's shootings, recently a murder within the 40th and Ames area. I don't think we need additional potentially drunken patrons up there in the evening. But I have no agreement with these people as to their overflow parking on my lot. My building is fully occupied, all 3 bays, and I think it will just be additional commotion and potential violence, and I'm opposing this beer garden. I feel if they have that additional space, they should make a parking lot out of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Jerem.
Yes. Would the applicants come up, please? And then just identify yourselves. Would you identify yourselves again, please?
Cynthia Jenkins.
Lindsay DeBerry.
Mr. Gray has a funeral to attend to, so he asked me if I wouldn't mind asking a few questions, and of course I don't. So I just wanted to know, first of all, what, if any, security issues that you've had in terms of your customers in this on-sale establishment?
No security issues so far at all.
And you have a Class I license, not a C license, so you don't sell any packaged liquor to go?
No, none at all.
There are a couple package stores to your west, though, are there not?
Yes, there are.
And they sell the single container
Yes, they do.
items. Now, in terms of the beer garden itself, as I understand it from Councilman Gray, that you said that this is primarily for your customers who are smokers. There won't be any outdoor music?
No.
Now, as far as what your neighbor said that you just heard, what can you tell her to assure her that you'll be a good neighbor in terms of your establishment, your customers?
Oh, I would very much like to work out, any kind of agreement with her. I didn't know that was a problem, so I would like to talk with her more about that. But our place is so far, very quiet, 35 and over crowd, jazz music, very much so a place that I would like to run that's not have any kind of real commotion going on. So I don't suspect that there will be the issues that she might be worried about. As far as the space for the beer garden, there's not enough space. It's only a 14 by 30 something foot area. So there's no place for parking in that spot. And just for a few chairs, a few tables, and so that we can get the smokers off the front, keep the front clean, so in order to help with the safety issues of our customers.
Well, as long as you're willing to meet with your neighbor and address her concerns to your ability.
Okay.
I know you got other businesses around there that we're aware of and that we're talking to about addressing some issues that are going on there. But as long as you're not going to have outdoor music and you're willing to meet with her, Councilman Gray seemed to be okay, and that would do for me for now too. I will say that if we're hearing about problems emanating from the beer garden or your establishment, we can always have you come back here to us. So I wish you well, and would make a motion contingent upon no outdoor music and meeting with a neighbor to address her concerns.
Thank you.
Dr. Thompson.
Yes, the lady that was up, could you come back? I didn't catch your name.
Yes, my name is Helen Fisher, and the address of my property is 3921 2325 Ames, as well as the vacant lot, parking lot, 3915 Ames.
Ms. Fisher, the agreement you had with Hanks, was it just a gentleman's agreement, or did he pay you money?
No, it was just a gentleman's agreement. It wasn't with me, it was with my ex-husband.
Okay. Are you willing to enter into that agreement with this particular owner here?
Yes, as long as they do it on a regular basis. I put a lot of money into the building in the last 2 years, and as I say, it's fully rented, and I need the spaces for, I have a problem with the next door neighbor on the opposite side of the lot. They put a variety store in there, and of course my lot is handy and everybody parks there, but it's going to be a real problem for my tenants if I don't maintain the lot for my people.
Okay, if you could stay there, and if Ms. Jenkins could come back up.
Hello?
Have to say one more time your name.
Cynthia Jenkins.
Are the two of you willing to get together out in the hall right now and try to fashion a time where you can meet and come together on this agreement?
Certainly.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and support this because I happen to know Ms. Jenkins. We were colleagues together in the mental health field, and I happen to know that she's a very upstanding person, and I think you're going to get a good owner. I think you're going to get a business that's run real well from what I know of Ms. Jenkins, so I'm going to also support this. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second.
Yes, we do.
No lights, roll call.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Approved 5-0. Item number 14, Horseman's Park, 6303 Q Street, request permission for an addition to their present Class C liquor license, their irregular-shaped beer garden with event-only fencing.
Public hearing on agenda item number 14 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yes, my name is Sean Kelly, 7134 Pacific Street. Here today on behalf of Horseman's Park. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Jerem? Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
And Mr. Jerem passes a second time for a potential conflict of interest. It's approved 4-0, one passing. Item number 15 is La Trappist Restaurant and Lounge, 1129 South 180th Street. Request permission to appoint Jeff Pazlowski, manager of the present Class C liquor license.
Public hearing on agenda item number 15 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yes, Sean Kelly, 7134 Pacific Street. Here today on behalf of the applicant manager. He is present and be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Jerem? Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Mr. Jerem passes second time for potential conflict of interest. It's approved 4-0, one passing. Item number 16, V. Mertz, 1022 Howard Street. Request permission to appoint Jody Meredith, manager.
Public hearing on agenda item number 16 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Jody Meredith, 2610 North 109th Terrace, number 203.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. No lights, roll call.
Jerem? Stothard? Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Approved 5-0. Item number 17, Crescent Moon Ale House, 3578 Farnham Street. Request permission for a special designated license for beer garden and dance on September 23rd and 24th from until 2 a.m. with music ending at midnight.
Public hearing on agenda item number 17 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Bill Baburek, 7905 South 45th Avenue, Omaha, 68157.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Jerem.
Yes, Bill, I wanted to ask you if you're going to continue the same security that you agreed to do with the last beer garden you had, because it appeared to work.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have 3 off-duty Omaha police officers that will be on site from about 7 o'clock until closing, and then we have a security company that patrols the lot throughout the evening until 9 o'clock in the morning.
And then also making sure that the security and the police have the people moving home as opposed to hanging out after you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll plan to do last call at 1:15 and no more service after 1:30. So that we're hoping that will, by 2 a.m. most everything will be completely cleared.
I think that'll be good, because the last 2 beer gardens ago, it appeared that people were hanging out in the parking lots and not going home, and their conversations were loud, and the neighbors could hear it. And I appreciate your cooperation there, and ask you to do the same this time.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. Motion to approve.
No further lights. Roll call.
Jerem. Yes. Stothard. Yes. Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Approved 5-0. Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause an item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed, unless otherwise provided by City Council rules of order.
The public hearing on agenda item number 18 was held on August 23rd, 2011.
We need a motion.
Need a motion.
Motion approved. Second.
No lights. Roll call.
Jerem.
Yes.
Stothard.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
It's passed 5-0.
The public hearings on agenda items number 19 through 25 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, who you represent, and if you are a proponent or opponent. Public hearing is closed. No lights. Roll call.
Jerem.
Yes.
Stothard.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
They're adopted 5-0. Item number 26, resolution attached Dundee Ridge Medical Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan proposes converting an underutilized vacant lot located at 4825 Dodge Street into a new one-story medical office building for new and expanded offices of the Children's Physicians and Children's Hospital Medical Center is hereby approved.
Public hearing on agenda item number 26 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Good afternoon, Bridget Hadley, City Planning. I'm here to present the Dundee Ridge Medical TIF redevelopment plan. Before you, this is a completion of a formerly underutilized site. It has been converted. It's a mixed-use site, has condos on it right now, and this is the most northern part of the site, which will have a office building, medical office building, and the children's physician's office that is at 51st and Dodge has outgrown their location at 51st and Dodge and in need of expansion, so they have this opportunity now at this site to grow and expand and hire more staff, doctors and their staff at this center. It will be the use of about $250,000 in TIF, and with that, I ask for your approval. We do have a representative of the owner if you have any specific questions.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. No lights. Roll call.
Jerem.
Yes.
Stothard.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Adopted 5-0. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, due to no meeting being held September 6th, third reading on agenda items number 27 to 32 shall be held on September 13th. The public hearing on these items are today. Ordinance on second reading, Planning Board attachments, item number 27, ordinance vacating the east 25 feet of 50th Avenue from Oak Street South. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item number 27 begins now. Are there any proponents? there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 28, ordinance approving an amendment to the loan contract with the Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality for the combined sewer overflow project.
Public hearing on agenda item number 28 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item number 29, ordinance authorizing and directing issue of general obligation bonds, a term for identification, various purpose bonds, Series 2011A, and general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2011B.
Public hearing on agenda item number 29 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item number 30, ordinance to approve and accept the acceptance and authorization of a grant for the first responders, Tri-County Emergency Response Communities in Douglas, Sarpy, and Washington counties.
Public hearing on agenda item number 30 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item number 31, ordinance to approve payment to EBSCO Publishing for the use of 18 databases by the Omaha Public Library.
Public hearing on agenda item number 31 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item number 32, ordinance to amend special ordinance number 10085, levying an assessment for building demolition by repealing the assessment on 2316 South 19th Street.
Public hearing on agenda item number 32 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, the third reading and public hearing on agenda items number 33 through 37 shall be held on September 20th. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7H, the second reading and public hearing on agenda items numbers 38 through 39 shall be held on September 13th. On our supplement, additional resolution, Mayor and City Council hereby review the report of the .com review task force dated August 4th and request that the city and county move forward to prepare an amended interlocal agreement implementing the recommendations contained therein.
Public hearing on agenda item number 41 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Stother.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say that as a member of the .com Board of Directors, what we are doing here is this is just recommending on behalf of the .com Review Task Force that we move forward with the amendment of the interlocal agreement between the City of Omaha and Douglas County. And this amendment that will come to the City Council at a future date, but the task force has reviewed and come up with recommendations. It has been both approved by the County Board and by the Board of Directors. And I asked the Council for the support today of the resolution so that we could move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights. Roll call, or no, do we have a motion?
Second.
No lights. Roll call.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Adopted 5-0. Additional ordinance on first reading on number 42 at the request of council member. We'll read it up. Ordinance to approve a collective bargaining agreement between the city and local professional firefighters, Local 385.
Motion placed on file.
Second.
Dr. Thompson.
Yes, this is one particular vote that I kind of tussled over this one because I like to do things in decent order, and there is something to say for voting this up or down, and if I were in the mayor's position, I would want an affirmative vote up or down. And my leanings was towards to not put this on file, to go ahead and go on record as a vote either way, up or down. My vote would have been to vote it down and say no to it. However, I have been talking to my colleagues today, and against better judgment, I think I'm going to go ahead and side with my colleagues, but I just want to remind this council that it's very important that even when the opposition is not acting on best behavior or when they're not acting on behalf of the city, we still have to take the high road. And I just hope we're not getting into a tit for tat. And I'm being told that this is sound strategy and that there's a long-range plan to this. And so I'm going to yield to my better judgment and support this. But I do want to encourage my colleagues to make sure that we stay on the high road and keep the citizens at the center and not necessarily our feelings or wanting to get revenge or anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stothert?
Thank you. Just a quick comment. We went through 3 readings with the original contract already, so that has been done. The council, exercising their legislative authority, had 4 amendments, and one of those passed. Not all of them passed, but in the end, that contract, that amended contract, was voted down. So, in my opinion, the council has already made it quite clear that there has not been and there will not be enough votes to pass the contract in its original form, henceforth why we tried to amend it. I think at this point in time, the mayor's office as well as the union has come out with a statement saying that the union is not willing to reopen negotiations and not willing to negotiate anymore. And so I really don't see a reason to put the original back on for another 3 readings, which it's on its first reading today. As I said before, we've done this already. We've had the public hearing, and we have come to a conclusion on that already. So, I always think things are better to be solved at the negotiating table, and I sincerely wish that the union would have listened to what the city council said and would have been willing to go back to the table and discuss more and hopefully come up with a resolution that we all could approve and we could have gotten a contract, hopefully. But that doesn't look like it'll happen right now, and I do think that just putting this back on for 3 readings again is not going to accomplish anything. And so with that, I think at this point in time, I do agree with placing it on file. And placing it on file means we won't have a second and third reading again, but it doesn't mean that it can't be brought back and put on the agenda again at a later time. And so I think the City Council has the authority to reconsider any vote, and so we have had the authority already if we wanted to reconsider the vote that we made several weeks ago, and no one has put it back on the agenda. So I think it makes perfect sense at this time to place it on file, and if at a later date we want to bring it back, if the union is more open to negotiation, then that can be done. So,
no further lights. Roll call.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothert?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's placed on file, 5-0. Additional resolution, item number 43, resolution, City Council of the City of Omaha does hereby rescind the previous delegation for the responsibility for the negotiation of labor contracts to the mayor of the City of Omaha and resume such responsibilities as it so determines, whether alone or through assistance of council, labor relations experts, or such others as determines may be necessary to assist the City Council in such processes.
Public hearing on agenda item number 43 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Good afternoon, R.J. Brown, 1501 Avenue Old, Carter Lake, Iowa. I'd like to praise the City Council for getting a hold of these contracts, because I think this is the first time you're going to have a lot of success by having an independent negotiator and yourself working together for the taxpayers of Omaha, and I like to commend you for that. And it took a long time, but I think you have going to have a success in this down the road for the long term, and I really support the resolution. Thank you.
Are there any other proponents?
Zach Reinhardt, 6322 Pinckney Street. I'd like to echo what RJ said, but also say, I think you guys should be the ones to do this anyway. representing different districts of the city with your constituents in mind. I think that you guys are the right people to do it. Any city council, I don't believe it's the mayor's, should be the mayor's job to do this, and I think that it will end up with a more fair result for the people of Omaha. We are the employers of the firefighters, and if I tried to tell my boss how I wanted my terms of employment to be, I'd be out the door. And so I think we just need to take a stand here, and I think this is a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents?
Mr. President, members of the council, Chip Maxwell, 3835 California Street in Omaha, for the Omaha Alliance for the Private Sector. We support the resolution because we think there needs to be a change in negotiating authority at City Hall. I do not say that lightly. I knew the mayor before he was the mayor. I knew him before he was a city council member. I served with his wife in the legislature. I know the members of the negotiating team for the city outside of these chambers, outside of politics. I believe they're good people, and they're trying to do what they think is right. Nonetheless, we think there needs to be a change in leadership at City Hall. We've presented our materials to you already on changes we'd like to see in the contract. I'll just pick one example, and the pension formula. And I will spare you the theatrics with the stacks of money this time. But I just want to note that we do find it amazing that the city is declaring victory, saying we have achieved pension reform. We fixed the pension problem. We showed you the stack of 33% pension contribution by taxpayers. Now, this is way out of whack for other fire departments or police departments around the country. It's about 10 times more than taxpayers typically contribute to pension funds for other Nebraska government workers. And, it's about 3 times more than we contribute for other government workers, about 10 times more than people get in the private sector. It's just way out of whack. The pension formula is too high. It's got to be brought down. We don't begrudge generous wages and even benefits for police officers and firefighters, but this retirement system has got to be brought back down to earth. That's just one example. The arguments on the other side seem to fall into 3 general categories. One is, well, whether it's the pension formula or some of the other provisions that we've taken issue with, those are in the previous agreement. The precedent's already there. We can't take those away. The union's going to get upset if we do that. We want to see a negotiating team that takes the position that disaster that took effect in 2004 is not a baseline for future negotiation. We want a negotiating team that does not feel bound by the contracts that took effect in 2004 and considers them binding precedent. Another argument is, well, the CIR. Now remember, we might get dragged down to the CIR. The city testified in favor of the new CIR law. Okay, but now you've got the city's negotiating team running scared from the new and improved CIR that's supposed to give us better leverage and put us in an advantageous position in these kinds of negotiations. What's going on here? Okay, if that's the case, if the CIR is not an advantage for us, then where is the plan? Where's the leadership with the agenda and the vigor to go down and pound on some doors next year in the legislature? If the CIR law is not in the shape it needs to be in to put us in an advantageous position, where's the plan to get down there and put it in the shape it needs to be in? Okay, we want a negotiating team. We want some champions in this process that are going to be aggressors, not always backpedaling and accommodating and playing defense. Another objection that's often raised is, well, the city charter mandates this or that. True, and we are bound by the city charter. How about pensions, number one? Where is the plan coming from City Hall to rally the people to change the charter to better serve the taxpayers? Pensions, number one, we got to get out of the pension game, or at least get out of the defined benefit racket that we're trapped in right now. You see, we don't hear any of that. What we're worried about, what the Alliance is worried about, is there seems to be this sense of complacency and accommodation and, well, given the charter and given the state of the CIR and given the previous agreement, this is it. This is the best we can do. And we think the city can do better. So with respect for those who have been negotiating and I'm sure trying to do the best that they thought was possible, we would like to see you pursue this avenue you're going down and change things up. I guess I should say change things back to the way they were and have the council take the initiative and exercise leadership in negotiating these labor contracts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Stothard.
Thank you. I just want to ask a quick question to City Legal. Would that be Bernard or Mr. Kratz? You? Mr. Kratz, the city charter is very clear that the mayor is the executive branch, city council legislative branch, correct?
There are defined duties on both sides. That's correct.
And in
Kratz, city attorney.
Thank you. And we know who you are. In 1973,
the record doesn't know who you are.
In 1973, we received a copy that the city's law department gave an opinion that the legislative branch and not the executive branch of government was responsible for the conduct of collective bargaining negotiations until and unless that function was otherwise delegated by them or the charter was amended.
That's correct. Back in the early 70s, you cited the letter or the opinion in 1973. That was an analysis by the law department at that time, looking at the charter that says the mayor's in charge of the administrative functions, but on the other hand, the council's in charge of the pay scales and the personnel policies. And from that, the law department concluded that negotiations are in the province of the council, as opposed to the mayor. From a historical perspective and from a practical perspective, that authority has been delegated to the mayor by resolution over all these years. And the main purpose was to make it to simplify the process, as opposed to having 7 council members trying to negotiate a union contract. Occasionally, that authority has been called back by the council on specific issues. That's kind of where we're at this point.
Okay. So in 1973 is when this opinion was. It was in 1974 by resolution the city council delegated the authority to the mayor, and then you said that there's been other resolutions that have passed on and off. I think the last one was in 1999. But the question I wanted to ask is, since we are the legislative branch, I just want to make it clear publicly, in no way are we bound by a resolution that was passed in 1974, that we are still, by majority vote of the council, we are able to change that resolution or other resolutions or other ordinances by majority vote of the council?
Absolutely, and as you indicated in 1999, that did occur.
Okay, all right. I think that's all I have to ask right now. Thank you very much.
Dr. Thompson.
Thank you, sir. I'm in favor, in theory, of what we're trying to do here. Last week and the week before, I had complained that there was something wrong with the process. I also complained that it's hard to vote on something that I had very little input on. And so, not only on this council, but prior councils, I have brought this issue up for discussion many times, and at one time it almost came forward as a resolution, but we decided we didn't have enough support at that time. So it's not a new thing for me to discuss, and philosophically I know where we're going with it and I support it. I do want to remind this council that one of the reasons why they did give the power up is because it was a difficult process for 7 people to do. Having said that, it still may end up being a better process and a better product in the end for the citizens, and having to weigh things back and forth. I am on the side of Mr. Jerem and Mr. Maxwell and the many others who support this. I do have a substitute motion that I'd like to put out there, and that has to do more with a housekeeping issue. Those of you who are watching, you'll notice that we have 2 councilmen missing. Mr. Gurnett is missing because of being recovered from surgery, and Ben Gray is at a funeral of a relative. And so they're not on vacation, and they're not out of town just on frivolous visits or anything like that. They're not here because of some very important things that could not be avoided. And I'm just not sure, if I were in their position, if I'd want such a major legislation being voted on when their absence has nothing to do with something that they can control. So out of courtesy for my colleagues, I'd like to say that I'm supporting this, but I would like to lay it over 1 week so that all 7 councilmen are here. And if it were a minor thing that we were looking at, I wouldn't go there. But this is major. This is very, very major. So I don't know if I'm going to get a second. I may not even get a second. But out of respect for my colleagues, I'm asking for a 1 week layover.
2, please.
2 week layover. And see if I get a second on that, and I'll just yield the floor and see what happens.
I do want to say this. Labor negotiations are tedious, they're time-consuming, and certainly in this case they're very difficult. But we can't give up, and we can't assume that we're not going to talk any longer. In all cases, we need to continue our discussions and our negotiations. And unfortunately, in this case, it appears that we've reached an impasse. And by the passage of this resolution, we, the council, will ensure that labor negotiations for the city of Omaha will continue. And I do plan to support this resolution. Mr. Festerson.
You need to say it. The substitute motion died for lack of a second.
The substitute motion failed for lack of a second. Mr. Festerson.
Thanks, Mr. President. Generally, I've said this before, I think negotiations are better accomplished by an executive with legislative approval, and I think that's still the case in my view from a public policy perspective. I think it's a more efficient and more effective form of government. But we do seem to be at a situation where we just aren't on the same page, and something does need to change to hopefully move things forward and find some resolution. And that's not going to be accomplished by just putting a contract back on our agenda that wasn't approved as recently as 2 weeks ago. And maybe that can't be accomplished at all, but I think we do need to try. And so it does appear this is going to pass today, and I plan to be supportive as well. But I hope it does signify some movement in a positive direction, some ongoing discussions, so that we can find an agreement that's acceptable to all parties and find some resolution to a very difficult issue for everybody involved and move forward together. Thanks.
No further lights. Roll call.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Although I think we're voting at the right time, I'll go ahead and yield and say yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's adopted on a 5-0 vote.
No lights. Roll call.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
258.